Happy Advent and Merry Christmas from today's sponsor, Laros Media. Videos for every occasion. Check them out at larosmedia.com. Hello and welcome to the Stinking Albatross Podcast. My name is Alissa Globe, and I'm here once again with my partner in crime, Scott Hayward. How's it going, Scott?
Good, Alissa. How are you doing today?
Not too bad, not too bad. How's life since we last talked to you? It was 2 weeks ago. I know you've been doing some traveling. What is up?
Busy on the road, you and I both. So you went to BC to kick off our fundraising campaign for RightNow. So we're trying to raise enough money to get be able to hire more people because obviously we're getting older and we don't move around as quick as we used to. But the
I actually
big thing
found a gray hair the other day. Don't even get me started.
Is that your first one?
Yes.
Ooh.
It was brutal. Right on, like, you know, why does it always start like on the side too? Like, why? It's weird. Anyway.
I don't know. That's because it's closest to your ear, and that's where you hear the most bullshit. So then it gets sick of it and turns gray and dies. Yeah. It's also the furthest part from your brain. I don't know. Anyway, hitting the road. So last week was in Manitoba myself, the old stomping grounds, and going in around Winnipeg, which the weather there is so different from Southern Ontario. It was a big blast of winter that I got. And then going to get even more winter to get me in the Christmas mood as later this week, as of this recording, heading up to Northern Saskatchewan for more presentations. So, and that'll be the last of it till the new year.
That's good.
Yeah. They're successful. I think they're great.
Yeah. Oh, they're awesome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's really good. Tonight I'm going to a Flames game. They're playing Arizona, but Kessel is no longer on the team, so I'm no longer really interested in going. But I'll go just for the fun of it. This week is crazy busy for us. We have my sister lives with us, and I have to bake 6 dozen cookies for Friday. I have my husband's work Christmas party, which
fun.
they finally are doing for the first time since 2019. So it's like a turkey dinner, all that. That's on Friday. We're having people over on Saturday night for a little Christmas get-together that we always have. And then on Sunday, we go to Medicine Hat for overnight to celebrate Christmas with his family. And then on Wednesday, we're off to Ontario. So it's pretty intense, crazy, next 7 days. But I'll be happy once I'm in Ontario after flying with my 2 insane children. That's causing me sleepless nights along with my infant son. I guess he's no longer an infant, though. He's a baby. I think technically, 6 months.
I thought an infant was until you're a year and then you're a toddler.
I don't know.
I don't know. What do we know? We're just parents.
Anyway, it's going to be brutal. It's going to be totally brutal. I just am going to equip myself with so much chocolate and Tylenol and Peppa Pig. You have no idea. That's basically what's going on in my neck of the woods. And then we get to see you in like 2 weeks or something.
Yeah.
That'll be good. So this podcast, we have a few kind of frustrating topics, but we'll end it off with on a lighter note. So we do have an interview coming up for you a little bit later on, but we're going to go right into it talking about this whole Balenciaga. I'm not fancy enough. Balenciaga saga.
I would show you all my Balenciaga stuff, but I burnt it all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Same.
Yeah.
It took me days to burn it all.
That's why we have to go on a fundraising tour. To fund the child pornographers.
Oh my goodness. But for those of you who don't know about this or who know very little, this is just a brief rundown. So Balenciaga is a famous fashion brand. It's most notably connected to Kim Kardashian and Kanye West when they were together, and even separately. They both had separate deals with this fashion brand. And they recently released an ad for 2022-2023 in which they depicted young children posing with teddy bears wearing bondage gear. And they were also dressed kind of in black, kind of punkish, but it was the bondage gear that really obviously made people upset. And there was a huge outcry from the public.
Which is nice to see, by the way.
Yeah.
That's actually, yeah.
But all the celebrities who regularly wear Balenciaga, like a few of the unknown kind of D-listers were the ones who were burning their stuff, and like silence, crickets from anybody prominent who who always wears it. But I just want to, it's way more. I did a really deep dive rabbit hole situation here when it comes to Balenciaga, and it's so much more than just a kid holding a bondage teddy bear. I don't know if you did this too. Like, did you research a little bit more about these pictures, about who's behind them, that kind of thing?
I did, yeah. I don't know if you want to go first or not, but if you do want to go first, one thing I want to mention, because I think this is a whole or kind of tangential thing that's interesting, is I got a lot of this information actually from watching one of Blair White's videos. So for these that don't know, that Blair White is a transsexual woman that kind of defies a lot of what people might project upon people who are in that community, and often takes, like Blair takes a very how do I say this, a very conservative approach to a whole wide variety of issues, big time against those that prey upon children in a very sexual manner. And so Blair went through and did a deep dive on this over about a 20-minute video, which I thought was pretty good. So I did then my own research from the video just to kind of double check some of my stuff. And I think it'd be very, very similar to because Blair was saying this, it's not just this ad campaign. Like, it's about who the people are behind this ad campaign, some of their social media, some of the stuff that they had, some of the subliminal stuff that they have, and some of their photographs in Balenciaga's advertising over the last couple of years, because I think this is the same photographer and art director that are doing this. So
let's just talk about that one thing. In one of the pictures in this ad, there was an image of an hourglass handbag, which was placed on top of a pile of papers that was on a desk. And thankfully, social media users really zoomed in and highlighted what those papers were. And it was of a 2008 Supreme Court ruling, United States versus Williams, which decided whether laws banning child pornography violated the First Amendment right to freedom of speech and expression. So all the while Balenciaga is saying, oh, we didn't know about this, we condemn child abuse, child pornography, they then simultaneously have an ad featuring bondage gear and children and a Supreme Court decision on the desk of that very same ad. Is that one of the things that Blair highlighted?
Yeah, and Blair went a little further to say, because there are people who are defending it, like, oh, the Williams decision upheld the ban on child pornography, and it did in so much as that, like, actual real live children being used pictorially, videos, whatever. And obviously, maybe it's not obvious anymore these days, but thankfully did upheld that ban. What it did not uphold a ban for, however, was things like depictions of children in sexual positions in like animated in cartoons or in the written word, things of this nature. So it further refined, I suppose. Not necessarily to use the word refined, but further restricted, let's say that's a better word, of what child pornography is, and excluded a bunch of stuff. So Blair was saying this is actually, from Blair's perspective at least, this is a celebration of that kind of little bit of a toe in the doorway, so to speak. So I don't know if you found that in your research, but I thought that was very fascinating. And I also thought it was perverted that those defending Balenciaga saying like, oh, well, no, this is, they're celebrating the upholding of the restriction on child pornography, when you actually go through the Williams decision, that's, at least from my interpretation, that's not what it did at all.
I always celebrate, something being condemned by doing it in a picture with children in bondage gear. Like, it makes total sense. Okay, so then, like, going even further, the CEO of Balenciaga's parent company, which is called Caring, owns an auction website. And perhaps this is the most disturbing fact that I found. And the auction site is called Christie's Auction House, where disturbing child sex mannequins are sold. There's one piece of art that costs $140,000, which is called F-Face, the full word, which features a male toddler with an erect penis in place of his nose and an anus in place of his mouth. Another piece in the same series shows an adolescent girl standing completely naked with the same genitalia in place of her nose and mouth. She's wearing nothing but a pair of black sneakers. It goes on and on. There's another picture of 5 preteen girls, which are all connected, again, naked, wearing nothing but socks. And then it gets even worse, and I'm not going to get into it, but they showcase severed body parts, blood and gore, and hint at pedophilia and at child sex abuse. So what's really creepy about this is that this CEO who owns basically Christie's auction house is a like French million/billionaire named Francois Henry Pinault, and he
Great
is
pronunciation.
what? Okay, I forget Madame Di Maria was my French teacher's name in elementary school, and I was so bad at pronunciation. But that's neither here nor there. But this guy, who owns this site, basically, is also married to Hollywood actress Salma Hayek. So it's weird, the crossover between all these things that are coming out with the Jeffrey Epstein case, which with, so many other kind of sexual abuse scandals that are happening currently in Hollywood with specifically minors. And then this whole Balenciaga situation where no celebrities are condemning it despite always wearing this brand. And this going real deep into the organization that it's not just, a teddy bear. It's bad enough if it was just a teddy bear with bondage, but this is like actual disturbing horror movie, you get beaten in prison type stuff.
Yeah, so this led me to the final thing I was able to research. Frankly, I didn't have enough time, and even if I did, I don't think I wanted to go even much further into it. But in one of the photographs and one of the advertisements from the last couple of years, again, with the same art director and art company that was responsible for this horrendous campaign that kind of started all this, they had a book in the back by an author by the name of Michael Burmans. And in the book and in some of his books, he has basically, and I don't know if he himself is the artist or he's just compiling it, a bunch of art of basically child pornography, but children more or less being tortured, dismembered in situations where they're tortured either sexually or just tortured in general. And you see the connections culturally for a lot of this stuff, and for what we talk a lot about when regarding abortion, this is definitely connected to it. When I think the whole for a lot of these people, the whole argument of like, oh, but it's a child in the womb, it's not just a clump of cells. For a lot of them, they're probably thinking, oh, good, even better. It's very, very sick, and there's a string of commonality throughout it all. There's an underlying ideological string of commonality throughout it all. Now, I'm not saying everyone who's pro-abortion is pro, child torture per se. They might be pro-abortion that they don't believe that the preborn child in the womb is in fact, an actual child that's in a certain stage of development. But you see this kind of commonality, and so that's why I said a little bit earlier in this discussion that it was actually. It was nice. It was legitimately nice to see such a pushback from the public on this. Like it was a bit of a sense of hope, and it was like people are just gonna be like, oh, whatever, no actual children were tortured, and I don't super care. Like no, like people were disturbed by this enough to the point to say no more. Like this is completely unacceptable.
And it's not even us making these correlations. For example, there's a stylist named Lada Volkova who has posted many photos on her Instagram of children in distressing sexual and even violent situations. And she's close friends and grew up with the Balenciaga creative director named Demna Gvasalia. Now, what's really kind of laughable is that Balenciaga responded that they should have and could have done things differently, but they also say that they just didn't know. This was third-party styling on set, and that they fired that company that did this. And it's like, I couldn't put it better than, I don't know if you saw that clip that was going around. It was a Daily Blast Live, Jeff Schroeder, who actually was on Big Brother formerly, and they were talking about Balenciaga, and he took out his earpiece and he just went
Great
off.
Clip. Yeah.
Went off on Balenciaga and the celebrities and their bullshit excuses for not condemning it. This is exactly what Jeff Schroeder said.
Where's the outrage? I'm going to go off for a minute here because where is the outrage? It's been a week and a half. And now we're doing this story. I get it. Thanksgiving was happening and all that. But they tried to hide behind that, right? Maybe this will make it through the news cycle. No, it's not, okay? Adidas didn't cut ties 48 hours after Kanye did his whole thing, right? And they got lambasted for not speaking out against anti-Semitism. This is a week and a half, and nobody seems to care that there's little kids involved in this. I can't speak what it's like to be a black man, right? I can't speak what it's like to be a Jewish woman, but I can speak what it's like to be a father of 2 young boys. And that this type of behavior, when I worked at CBS.com out of a little closet my first show, I was like, I'm going to say this and wear a blue shirt. I got 49 emails saying, maybe wear a purple shirt and maybe don't say this here. Don't tell me this slipped through the cracks when you're getting a court case that features child pornography. It's disgusting. It's disturbing. Jeopardy's got to flip their whole production because of one person said something, but they wanted to be woke and do all that. How many other examples are there? 10, 20, 30, 40 years we're going back to cancel people? But this slips through the cracks. It's outrageous. And that people aren't outraged and skipping work with their posters and going to the courthouse or going to Balenciaga, and stars aren't wiping their Instagram and social media with all their Balenciaga gear is disgusting in itself. Don't you tell me, Hollywood, how to live my life, or you want me canceled, or because you produce something. You're going to go around because Balenciaga pays you $1 million, $2 million, $5 million. Kim Kardashian, shame on you. You're a billionaire. You don't need this company. They need you. And for you to take a week and a half to come to a conclusion, shame on you.
Okay, so like I said, very few celebrities have been outspoken about this. Kim Kardashian said that she would reevaluate, and there's a lot of gray area, which was just insane. But there was Brittany Aldean, who's married to Jason Aldean. She also is a conservative, and she had to clear a plastic bag saying taking out the trash full of Balenciaga stuff. There was a girl who was on the 90210 reboot. She actually led a protest on Rodeo Drive in front of Balenciaga.
Really? Right in Hollywood?
Yeah. And then there was a Bachelor Nation personalities who uploaded a video of them burning all their Balenciaga stuff, which I actually posted on Instagram and Twitter. But all these are viral clips. But again, like, these are kind of sort of celebrities. And I mean, they're rich enough to afford a Balenciaga, but not like a Nicole Kidman and a Jennifer Aniston and all these Rihanna, all these people who are constantly shown wearing this brand of clothing. So it's really disturbing in that regard. Like, you can't just quietly delete the pictures of you wearing this fashion brand. You have to actually speak out. Like, this is a very black and white issue, Kim. There's no gray area. This is about child pornography, child torture, featuring children with BDSM gear. Like, it's not difficult. This is how far down and how morally depraved Hollywood is, that they can't even condemn child pornography.
Well, obviously we're seeing at least elements of the political left, and for a lot of those celebrities of so-called that have their base in Hollywood, like, there's no doubt that they're on the political left. Now we're being able to see, what their priorities are for speaking out about stuff. We're able to see, the things that they're willing to go to protest for, lead protests in, and the things that they're not willing to speak out about. And frankly, their priorities are so much different than mine, probably so much different than yours. And eventually, I think the market, that this is a bit of beauty about capitalism, the market is eventually going to decide, right? And so I think the more and more that people know about this, and then the more that it's revealed, I think the more the pushback there's going to be. And if you're not part of that pushback, I think that eventually there's going to be a bit of a backlash. It's like when we see those like really, frankly, like extreme films in the last few years coming up from Hollywood that just fall so incredibly flat at the box office, or whatever you want to call the box office these days, renting on Paramount or whatever it is. And this is kind of, a bit of a part of that, I think, at least.
Yeah, it's truly disturbing. And if I could, give any advice, it's to not go down this rabbit hole, because it's going to like haunt my dreams for quite a while. But it's important to expose. It's important to know it's way more than just this ad. And this is the type of creepy pedophilia, violent craziness that's going on in our world. And we need to do everything we can to shield our children, protect them, and ensure that companies like this don't exist anymore that expose that, profit off this type of stuff. We'll take a short break, but when we come back, we will talk to Jeff Park. He is the executive director of an organization called the Alberta Parents Union, and we'll talk about an issue facing Calgary right now with regards to the Louise Dean Centre. So stay tuned. We'll be right
back. Nature communicates with us in a universal language. The sunrise starts a new day. The sunset marks our accomplishments.
The most beautiful communication is where the speaker and the listener match perfectly and understand the same message.
Your future audience is waiting to hear from you. What message do you need to share?
At LaRosse Media, we fashion beautiful communications through our professional video production services and marketing strategies.
Create your own most beautiful message. Visit larosmedia.com and be sure to check out our extended service options.
Dream, produce, market, succeed with LaRosse Media.
Serving Canada from coast to coast to coast.
And we're back, and we are joined with Jeff Park, who is the Executive Director for the Alberta Parents Union.
So thanks for coming on, Jeff.
Thanks so much for having me.
Jeff is the Executive Director of the Alberta Parents Union, an organization of Alberta parents advocating for the best possible education for all Alberta students, whether it's public or separate, alternative, charter, independent, or home education. He has an extensive background working in policy, research, advocacy, and political campaigning. And he lives in Calgary, just like I do, here with his wife and 4 children. Now, the reason why we have Jeff on is because there's an issue going on here in Calgary with the Louise Dean Centre, which is basically a joint operation run by the Calgary Board of Education and the Catholic Family Services of Calgary. And it's basically an independent school that's a standalone school for mothers, teen mothers, and their children. So basically, these mothers can go and finish their high school education and drop their kids off at the adjoining daycare, and they can visit their kids in between classes. And it's an amazing school dedicated to helping women who experience unplanned pregnancies in their teenage years finish high school, get their degrees, while also taking care of their children and being the best possible mothers they can be. Now, this school, you'll have to tell me, Jeff, how long it's been in existence at this building, but it's been in this building in Kensington. They need extensive repairs, I think over $14 million worth of repairs. So the Calgary Board of Education said they want to relocate it. Now, where they want to relocate it is the biggest problem, because they want to relocate it to a high school in probably arguably one of the worst parts of Calgary, in a little area called Forest Lawn, and at a school called Jack James High School. And just 2 weeks ago, there was an actual stabbing at Jack James High School. And so they want to build an addition that would cost about $4 million with a separate entrance and the daycare and everything at this school. But there's a lot of problems with this decision, which, I'm sure Jeff will get into. And a lot of the alumni are also begging the Calgary Board of Education not to make this decision, which it was actually decided upon last week. So that's sort of a bit of a rundown. Did I get anything wrong there, Jeff?
So I just want to say that in Alberta, independent school, which I know you were using that word differently, but independent school is what we call private schools in Alberta. So I want to clarify that Louise Dean is a program in the public system, the Calgary Board of Education system, run by Catholic Family Services, which now calls itself Kindred. I don't actually know how long it's been around, but I know in the early 90s, there was about an immediate 50% dropout rate among teen mothers who would get pregnant, and this was with much higher rates of teen pregnancy in the 90s than we have now, and there was basically an immediate 50% dropout rate, and then the graduation rate was pretty pathetic. I can't remember, but it was around 20% a quarter of teen moms would actually graduate from high school. The Calgary Board of Education, Edmonton Public Schools, lots of the big school boards all over Canada instituted these reforms where they would have a separate location. This is a reform that has had great success. We talked at the end of 2021-2022 school year. Our organization highlighted the valedictorian of one of these programs in Edmonton, who gave her valedictorian speech holding an adorable little baby, and so this is a program that has worked. Not only have they had the 91.4% graduation rate, they're more likely to go on to graduate school, to more advanced education than their peers. Their children are healthier and do better in school themselves than their peers, which is really significant because almost 50% of the girls that are in this program would be considered at-risk teens themselves, either because of physical abuse or substance abuse issues, and they would be part of a cohort that we would expect to have a very high rate of surrendering their children to the foster care system, et cetera. And that doesn't happen with Louise Dean. So it's across the board of policy success. It's not because the abortion rate has increased in these situations. It's because the pregnancy rate itself has dropped. So we have fewer girls in this situation, which doesn't mean that a program like this is any less necessary. In fact, as it becomes more unusual for there to be a teen who's pregnant in a school setting, the bullying and harassment only escalates, and it's only all that much more stigmatizing. So it's actually even more necessary with the reduction in the teen pregnancy rate. Right. So there are only 46 students in the Louise Dean school now. That's a win. That's a good thing, something that we should be able to celebrate. But the Calgary Board of Education has built so much of their thinking around doing things big, around having this education empire, that caring for their most vulnerable students has slipped through the cracks. For so many, I mean, one of the biggest complaints we hear in education policy is class sizes. Well, here's a situation where that's not a concern. You're going to be able to have small class sizes. You're going to be able to have class sizes of 15 pretty typically, because which is great because these girls have unique needs. It's not going to be that difficult to do that in this situation, and yet it's being seen as if the reduced size of the program is a problem. We've seen so many other school systems other than the Calgary Board of Education, other than the big city public school boards especially. We've seen so many school systems innovate so well and really get good at doing smaller, more innovative programs. The Calgary Board of Education, with its gigantic amounts of funding, it finds itself unable to innovate the great possibilities of this program, where it's able to be a smaller program, where you're able to do more boutique services. Somehow they're not seeing that as an upside. Whereas I know for a fact that any independent school, any private school, any charter school, we've had learning pods pop up all over Alberta that have received no government funding and have been able to come up with really innovative, really small options throughout the pandemic. The idea that then this best funded system that we have can't keep up with the needs to innovate is just perverse, really. And they've come to a really perverse decision exactly 2 weeks after a student was stabbed at the Jack James High School, where they are moving this program into, and they voted to move this program into the Jack James High School. Exactly 2 weeks after this stabbing occurred is when they took this vote.
I was gonna say your explanation and your background on that is very much appreciated, and it brings up so many questions, right? Especially to me, to someone who I would say I'm very familiar with the province of Alberta, and that's one of the joys of the job that Alissa and I have. We get to become very familiar with a lot of places right across Canada, but I'm not in Alberta, I'm not in Calgary. So I believe you said that their graduation rate recently from the school was in excess of 90%, 91.6 or 91.4, one of the two. And I would imagine that that's, if not right in line with the Alberta average, maybe even a little bit above average. If I recall,
a little above. Yeah,
exactly. If I recall back home in Manitoba, if your high school is doing 90% graduation rate, that's pretty good, which is kind of brings up some questions about public education in and of itself. I guess like
the Canada-wide average is 78%, by the way.
Wow, that low, eh? That's incredible.
So the Calgary Board of Education reports 3, 4, and 5-year graduation rates, and so it's hard to do apples to apples comparisons to know which one of those numbers to pick. So I can't do an apple to apple with the rest of CBE. I look for where the numbers were available in Forest Lawn, the neighborhood in Calgary that's being moved into.
Well, okay, well that's another thing that I brought up, right? So again, I'm not super familiar with Calgary, but correct me if I'm wrong, Kensington is, I think, Alissa, you lived in the Kensington area, right? Mm-hmm. And that seems like that's fairly downtown, that's fairly central. So it doesn't really matter where you're from, and a lot of these young women are coming to classes whatever time their classes might be and whatnot. It sounds like with their kids, and there's a daycare there. So it doesn't matter if you're all the way down in the south from Mackenzie Town or all the way north, let's say from, Forest Lawn or more central. It seems like a pretty central location. I think it's a lovely neighborhood. I think it's a nice, quiet neighborhood, just kind of on that north shore of the river there from downtown. Like it kind of makes sense as a location. And now, Jeff, you had mentioned that, and I don't know if I picked this up correctly or not. Are there other schools like this in other systems within Alberta that are standalone? Okay, so this is not like it's not like the school here in Calgary is one of a kind compared to the rest of the province. So this is, I guess my question to you is, given the background, given like from the outside looking in, like the fact that the school will be in existence makes sense. Besides perhaps cost, and like you said, the Calgary Board of Education is the wealthiest, if you will, and most well-funded of all the public school boards. Why do you think that decision was made by the Board of Trustees? Like I imagine there's a public reason given, but do you think that there is a more sinister motive? Like why would they do that? And especially, why would they go to the school in Forest Lawn, which can be a very, very long ways away for some of those women, I'm sure, that live in, the Southwest, for example.
Right. Well, and they say, look, the average commute time, whether by car or by transit, is going down because so many more of the girls live in the Northeast and the northern part of the Southeast, so that the average commute time goes down. And the chair even had the gall to talk about how this means that they'll be getting more sleep, and sleep deprivation is a form of torture. So this is really the humane thing. I'm sure someone could commission a study about stabbings occurring in your school and the effect that would have on your sleep. But anyway, but the girls themselves said, yes, a lot of us are from this neighborhood, and so are our bullies, and we don't want to go here. The central location was better for us because none of us live exactly right there. And then the other factor is, so your time on transit might reduce, but frankly, so does your safety. They were able at the old location to use the 4th Street C train stop. This is very inside baseball for Calgarians, but anyway, it doesn't matter. It's a relatively safe. It's downtown. Things happen downtown, but it's actually relatively safe. The crime rates at that C train stop are not all that significant. In Forest Lawn, they have to get off on the Marlborough C train station and then hop on a bus. And the Marlborough C train station, a woman was chased off the platform at the Marlborough C train station with a hatchet. There was this bizarre spaghetti Western style showdown with a guy with a knife, a guy with a pipe, and a guy with a flare gun. You saw this.
I did.
It's again, and one of the trustees actually, I believe it was Trustee May, actually asked administration, has anyone raised any issues with Calgary Transit? And they started talking about timetables and quickly you'd get. It's like, okay, how about the much bigger issue?
My goodness.
Flare gun attacks. I'm
getting so agitated right now.
I know that was raised because people CC'd me in their email when they sent it. So I know people mentioned that. And by the way, this was a 5-hour meeting in which they never mentioned the stabbing once. They did compare people who thought certain neighborhoods were worse for teen moms than certain other neighborhoods to racists. They've allowed a location for a school for teen moms to fall into such disrepair that they say it would cost $17 million to fix it. So that to me just moves the question back a step. Why did you let this building crumble around these teen moms and their baby? They're closing down Louise Dean because it's below 85% space utilization. The Calgary Board of Education has 46 schools that are below 70% space utilization. And space utilization does not actually mean how many kids could you put in this building. There's a complicated formula. Basically, if you had two schools that were right at 70, you could basically combine them and you'd be fine. It wouldn't be ideal, but you'd be fine. The way these things are calculated is not just like pure enrollment and how many kids could you fit in this building. So if they were to shut down one of their other 46, or I shouldn't say other, because Louise Dean is not underperforming. It is at least marginally underutilized. If they could shut down one of those other ones and then do some innovations to make it suitable for the Louise Dean students, then have to come out of their capital reserves. So this is money that they've been given in capital funding that they haven't been able to spend and that they've put in reserve that can only be spent on building new schools or improving the facilities at older schools. And they're sitting on a $49.88 million capital reserve only. And it's growing. When they did their last set of financial reporting, it was 41 something, and they were very upset. I kept saying they had $40 million. They had projected that they'd be starting to spend down their reserves. Instead, they have almost $10 million more than they did earlier this year. So they're at almost $50 million in capital reserves and counting, and yet are claiming that they just can't afford to run this program for the most vulnerable students they have. It's heartbreaking. It's enraging. It's all of the above.
Yeah, it's very difficult for me to sit here and listen to this because of how infuriating it is. These school board trustees are pure trash. Like, that's what they are. They don't care about women. They don't care about babies. They don't care about vulnerable teenagers. All they care about is money and the bottom line, even when they have the money. So it's absolutely insane to me that this would even be occurring, let alone going from a standalone school in central Calgary to Forest Lawn. Like, we're not racist. You don't have to be a freaking genius to know that the Marlborough Mall and that C train stop in that area, it's very violent. It has stabbings. I literally was watching the news in the morning and saw a guy shoot another guy with a flare gun like a foot away. And you expect me, I would never take my kids there, let alone if I was a teenager with a baby. It's absolutely infuriating. My question, I guess, is because of these trash trustees voting in this decision, what is the next step? Like, can we appeal to Adriana LaGrange? She's the Minister of Education. Like, how can we make this? We need to fight this at a grander level, basically.
So that's what we've done is we have relaunched our petition, which you can find at www.Alberta Parents Union. You don't need an apostrophe in there because it's the internet, don't worry. albertaparentsunion.ca. And you can either just go to the action tab where I believe Save Louise Dean is going to be the top option, or you can just keep typing save dash Louise Dean, Louise dash spelled like Lake Louise, Dean spelled like a dean of a university dash school. And so we've relaunched that petition and directed it to Minister of Education Adriana LaGrange. And so what we're asking is that if the Calgary Board of Education, with all its millions, is not willing to innovate to take care of their most vulnerable students, then let the money follow the child to a program that is willing to innovate. This I think this is more or less what will happen anyway, because a lot of the moms are going to drop out, and they will either drop out and never go anywhere else, or a an independent school or an innovative option like that will pop up to help them out of compassion for these girls. So let's just skip the part where we pretend that the Calgary Board of Education has any interest in helping these girls. Let's have the Minister of Education have another education authority present a proposal to take over this program, because there is no reason at this point that the Calgary Board of Education should be allowed to continue interfere in these girls' lives. And so that's our renewed ask there. I think just so obvious how heartless and headless this decision was, that I think we have a good chance of, and let's face it, I don't think the Calgary Board of Education and the provincial government like each other very much. So I think they're not exactly worried about stepping on each other's toes.
It's no secret that Adrienne LaGrange is pro-life. It's well documented. She was the head of a pro-life organization for like 15 years. RightNow helped on her nomination originally and when it was just challenged for the next provincial election. She is vocally pro-life. Like, she has to do something about this. So if you're listening, if you're from Alberta, please appeal to Adriana's pro-life sensibilities, which she clearly has, and ask her to do this alternative, because it's so incredibly important. I don't care if it's 45 girls or 5 girls. Like, these girls need this program, and it could help. It's also a chain, right? Like, teen pregnancy, then that child could grow up in bad conditions, and they have teen pregnancies, and I've seen it in my own family, and it is what happens. So to break free of this cycle, we need schools like this and programs like this. And there were so many stories in the media, who thankfully was on the right side of this issue, showcasing the success stories of the women who have gone through this program in the past and what they've gone on to become, and how they were begging the Calgary Board of Education, who, by the way, received over 400 whether emails, written letters, or phone calls from Calgarians asking them not to relocate, and they ignored it, probably calling us all racist, and still making their decision anyway. So, I mean, I guess my 2 takeaways from this is, number 1, contact Adrienne LaGrange, the education minister, and number 2, let's get involved in the next trustee election and get these trash trustees out of there.
This is the big point. This is the really big point, I think, because hopefully sometime in the new year, we're going to have a few people on talking about what they were able to do for school board elections, public school board elections in other provinces this past autumn, like whether it be Ontario or Manitoba or British Columbia. And it's really good to see people who, let's say, share our views and values, that are getting involved in these type of municipal elections. And I think for you two who are in Calgary, being you, Alissa, and you, Jeff, I think that this is like a really, really good, important launching pad point for some sort of campaign to not only see the 6 of the 7 that obviously voted the wrong way on this motion lose their, jobs. I don't know if they're being compensated or whatnot, but certainly lose their positions on the publicly elected school board of trustees, but be replaced by people who are solid, but people who won't make these decisions. It seems to me, with all the data that's available, with all the stories that are available, with all the kind of just logical argumentation that's, being presented to the board, that the board was making this decision almost with a perverse sense of delight, that they don't want young women who experience unplanned pregnancies to have the option to feel safe enough, to feel secure enough, to actually make sure that they get a good, solid education. We know it's a good, solid education because of the numbers that you just told us, Jeff, but also to make sure that, their kids can actually be born. Their preborn girls and boys can actually be born, and that the family unit, whatever that might look like, can actually go forward in a very reasonable and promising way.
And the camaraderie, like they have their peers,
I imagine,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you said separate, right? Like all these young women seem to be coming from that neighborhood in Northeast Calgary and don't want to be there. And they're probably coming from not great family situations would be my assumption to begin with. And so to have them go to
out of the picture, basically universally.
yeah. So to have them go to a different physical area of Calgary, and frankly, I find a very lovely area and a very nice neighborhood and a very welcoming neighborhood and a very kind of
non-violent.
low key, just normal neighborhood that's urban, which is actually kind of hard to find in this country. Kensington kind of is this isn't an advertisement for Kensington, but it's kind
They do have an abortion clinic,
but I mean, one step at a time.
Yeah.
What better way to show that you don't need the abortion clinic than to have that school right there in that neighborhood?
Exactly.
So to me, it seems like these trustees are taking a very ideological delight in basically shutting down the school, and sounds like from what a lot of the young women are saying, basically torturing them. And Jeff, you're probably not wrong. Like, a lot of them, if they have to choose to go to that school day in, day out at in Forest Lawn there, as opposed to dropping out, like, it sounds like a lot might make that latter decision, which would be just horrendous. So anyway, I personally think that this is like the perfect, and I'm bad to doing this on this podcast all the time, reducing everything to the realm of politics, but I mean, this is where the action happens, right? It's always in the political realm. I think this is an absolute wonderful opportunity for people in Calgary to get together, and you have what, correct me if I'm wrong, 3 years to the next the next municipal election. This is a great opportunity to hold people to account, to find excellent replacement candidates, and get these people unelected and send a message, because hopefully if there's any sort of percolation of this at any other level across Alberta, where these other schools, because these things tend to spread like weeds, these terrible ideas. If you can get in and nip it in the bud in the next municipal election in Calgary, I think that would be absolutely fantastic. And I think a lot of people who are watching or listening to this podcast, especially in the province of Alberta, and specifically in the city of Calgary and around Calgary, would be very interested in helping out with something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Look, to be clear, we absolutely need at least 6 new public school trustees for the city of Calgary. Mm-hmm. And if you've ever thought about running for anything, or even if you haven't, and you just care a lot about education, and you can handle governance documents and can handle because look, one of the things that we need the school board to do is to actually hold administration to account, demand answers from administration, and not just go along with whatever administration tells them, which is part of the problem here, I think. But so if that's you, don't worry. You don't have to be amazing at politics. You have the easiest campaign of all time. Mm-hmm. These 6 trustees sent teen moms to a murder school. Mm-hmm. It's the easiest campaign you've ever had. It's trust me, I've taken a paper version of this petition door to door, and it's basically just how quickly can you get people to open the doors and talk to you. I took other people who've done other kinds of activism in the pro-life world, in the education reform world, and they were all saying, this is the easiest door knocking I've ever done. It is. It's the easiest door knocking you will ever do. So if that's you at all, if you have any inclination in that way, we're gonna need to make sure that we're not running 12 people in each of these wards. So come to us, albertaparentsunion.ca. If you want to support the work that we're doing on informing parents on how to run for school board, informing parents on the issues that matter on the school board, informing parents about what their school board trustee has said on the issues that they care about. We're not, unlike those other kinds of unions, we're never going to tell you how to vote, but we will equip you with the information that you need. If you want to join that, then albertaparentsunion.ca/join, and we absolutely need to have this campaign, and not just, by the way, not just in Calgary. Like, today we're talking about Calgary and the most outrageous thing that the Calgary Board of Education did this week. But trust me, wherever you live in Alberta, I can tell you about outrageous things that your school board has done, because it's basically taken over by the looniest person you can imagine. is probably your school board trustee, especially if you don't know. This 5-hour meeting to move teen moms into a murder school started with a land acknowledgement, because it's very important to make sure that no one gets offended at this meeting where we're sending teen moms to a murder school, right? It's for those of your listeners who are familiar with the Proverbs in the Old Testament. It's like the Proverbs say that a righteous man cares even for his animals, but the tender mercies of the wicked are cruel. They don't know how to be merciful. They don't know what mercy is. We need righteous people to run for these school board trustee spots. It's one of the most immediately impactful things that you could do in politics. And quite frankly, the campaigns that people, or the vast majority, the campaigns that people run for these positions are really poor. It does not take a very good campaign to be the best campaign.
And the number of people voting in, and I imagine for the Calgary Board of Education is a ward system and not at large. Yeah. So the number of people that have voted in the ward systems for like if you look at federal elections, provincial elections, for city or town council, for mayoralties, and then for school boards, by large margins, the school board elections are the ones that have the fewest number of voters that actually cast a ballot, at least all the way through. So,
about half the people who vote for their city councilor will vote for their public school board trustee. Now that's a little fake because we also have Catholic school board trustees, but the Catholic system is about 30% of the system, not half. So you've got a big drop off between the people who vote for their city councilors or their county councilors for the most obscure other municipal positions down to school board trustee, which means that groups like the Alberta Teachers Association are able to organize their raging bullshit to go for these positions. They know who to vote for. A lot of regular parents have a hard enough time keeping up with provincial politics. They're certainly not going to know who their school board trustee is. And so you've got a real gap in the amount of knowledge that either side in this battle has in voting for these elections, which means most of your normal people don't vote, which is how you get radically abnormal people who are so abnormal that the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation and the Calgary Herald swing against them on this issue. You've got to be pretty far off base to vote. Those outlets typically are just court scribes.
The other thing to note as well is that for a lot of more left to center, left wing political parties in Canada, a lot of the people that get to run at the provincial level or run at the federal level come from the municipal level. Now, most of them do come from city councilors or mayors or whatever, and conservative parties do that as well. But I have noticed over the last, let's say, 5
years of Alberta was her first elected position was Calgary Board of Education trustee. The current basically would probably be the deputy premier if the opposition wins. Her first elected position was a Calgary Board of Education trustee. An Edmonton Public Schools trustee. So this is the funnel into higher office.
And I was just going to say, I've noticed in the last 5 or 10 years, more of the politically left-wing parties in this country grab a lot of their candidates for the provincial and the federal level from the school board, as opposed to right-of-center parties, probably because a lot of right-of-center parties don't really want to grab people from publicly elected school boards, because we're just, as a whole across the country, at least not quite yet involved, although that is changing province by province, and it's because of decisions like this. Personally, for me, I have one more question before we let you go, Jeff, and it was so great for you to come on and talk about this, and thank you, Alissa, for bringing up this topic. I know that's something you've wanted to talk about for a little while in our podcast, and not being from Calgary, even though I did appreciate it, I didn't fully appreciate it until this discussion. But my last question for you, and this might be difficult for people who are listening to our podcast and not watching it on YouTube or Rumble or something like that. Is it your habit typically day to day to wear garbage on top of your head, or is that only a one-day thing?
You know what? I'm going to take the constant refuge of the sports fan and say there's always next year. Next year's looking good for us to to triumph over your Blue Bombers. This us in this context, by the way, is of course the Calgary Stampeders.
For people who can't see, our guest today has a
CFL.
Stampeders cap on. For those who can't see, who are listening and not watching.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff, for coming on. Make sure that you go on to Alberta Parents Union.ca. Let's join forces on this. It's something I'm very passionate about, and let's do it right now because, no pun intended, time is of the essence. So thank you so much, Jeff, for coming on, and we'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, guys.
We live in a world that grows through communication.
Every connection comes from a dream to be heard and realized.
To welcome a better future. What are your dreams?
LaRosse Media will help communicate your vision through our professional video production services and marketing strategies.
Start building connections to your future audience. Visit larosmedia.com
and be sure to check out our extended service options.
Dream, produce, market, succeed with LaRosse Media.
Serving Canada from coast to coast to coast.
All right, now to end off our segment, we're going to talk about our top 10 Christmas movies. This was a dark segment. It was dark at the beginning. It was frustrating at the end. So let's end it off on a lighter note. Do you have your top 10 list there, Scott?
Of course I have my top 10. I did a lot of research for this.
Oh, this is so hard, and I have a few extra. I have
Same.
Okay, good.
I have numerous honorable mentions as well.
It was really hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Why don't you go first?
Okay, so my number 10 is Santa Claus is Coming to Town.
Coming to Town, like with the puppeteers.
Yeah, it's is it claymation or puppets?
Claymation, I think. Yeah.
It was done in 1970, and it's not like I particularly love the movie. It just is so reminiscent of my childhood. Like my dad loved Rudolph and loved Santa Claus is Coming to Town and those claymation animated movies. And like back when I was a child, you had to like wait to Saturday night at 7 p.m. on a certain channel to view it. You can just go online or stream it or even have it. I mean, we didn't have it on video, so it was like quite an event when these things came on, the Christmas movies, and it was just showcasing that Christmas is here and the Advent season is here. So it's more nostalgic than like good content, but it's still pretty good and the songs are catchy.
Yeah. I remember coming in from tobogganing with a bunch of my friends, and my mom made us hot chocolate and popcorn, and that just happened to be on, and so we watched it, and I watched it every year since.
Yeah.
Still go tobogganing and popcorn. Okay, my number 10 is Home Alone.
Nice. Mine's Home Alone is further up on the list for me, but that's a good one.
I just wish one day I can afford a property like that.
I know. You never think about it until you're an adult. Like, oh, that is a gigantic house.
Do you know that that actor was in that plays the dad was in Sopranos?
Okay. Yeah, I actually there's a Netflix series about how it's made, like these Christmas movies like Elf and Home Alone and others. And apparently the director, what's his name?
John Hughes.
John Hughes. He the outside of the house existed, but they rebuilt the entire inside, and he used it for other movies that he made like in future. So that was kind of cool.
I think it was in Planes and Trains and Automobiles. I could be wrong about that. But one thing I will say about Home Alone, and I know you have it later up on your list, is my favorite thing that I found out about it was so Catherine O'Hara and John Candy were, of course, friends, being Toronto Catholic actors. And so she invited him on set when they were filming it. And so he came like early in the morning at 6 a.m. or whatever. And everything he says in that film, for the very small cameo that he plays, he just ad-libbed because John was like, hey, do you just want to be in the movie? And he said, sure. And so he made up a character and away he went, which is just
that's awesome.
I love it. So, okay. Number 9.
Okay, number nine for me is A Christmas Story. Again, it's like nostalgic. I don't like super love it, but my mom loves it. My parents love it. We always watched it growing up. I like, even as gay gifts, I'll get her like a leg lamp, nightlight, and things like that. So it's just one of those classics. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like it. Again, it's not my favorite, as you'll see, but it, I like it. I thought you were going to say the same one as me. My number 9 was A Christmas Carol.
Okay.
The 1938 one with Reginald Olwen.
Okay, interesting. We have different ones, but cool.
You like the 1951 one?
I do.
That's also a very good one.
It's way up on my list.
Yeah. I read it every year. A Christmas Carol. I read Dickens' Christmas Carol every year. So anyway, okay. Number 8?
Yeah.
Okay.
Die Hard.
Nah. I was wondering if that'd be on your list or not.
Oh yeah. I have to have a bald, jacked actor action movie. It's got to be on every list. It just has to. So there you go.
Slash husband.
Exactly.
My number 8 is It Happened on Fifth Avenue.
Okay. Oldies.
Yeah.
The classics.
1947. Yeah, we watched that last night.
Nice.
Yeah.
My number 7 is How a Grinch Stole Christmas. I don't care which one because
both of them. I mean, they're both good.
Yeah, they're both equally good.
I think Jim Carrey did a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love the "Where Are You Christmas" that song. You know, I always play it.
Do you like the Mariah Carey album?
Ew, no, this isn't Mariah Carey. This is like,
I know, but it's like poppy Christmas. So
yeah. Oh, I like my light just came off here. I like Pentatonix Christmas. That's my favorite like pop.
Okay.
Do you know Pentatonix?
I'm familiar. Yeah, I just haven't listened to their Christmas stuff. Yeah.
That's good.
My number 7 is Miracle on 34th Street. The 40s
Jurassic
one.
Park guy. Oh, okay.
No, not 1994.
Matilda.
No.
Okay,
No.
fine. All right. Lovely. Okay, my number 5 is Home Alone.
No, we're not. We're at number 6, I think.
Oh, shit. My number 6 is Home Alone. Yeah, we already talked about it, so.
Yeah, my number 6 is White Christmas.
Is that the love triangle one?
No, it's with Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye.
And aren't they in a love triangle?
Rosemary Clooney. No, it's two friends that fall in love with two sisters.
Oh, okay.
In Maryland, yeah.
Do you know which one I'm talking about?
The love triangle. I don't know. There could be a few different ones.
No. Well, anyway. Remember when we had the movie night and you, me, and Leslie watched that love triangle movie? And you picked it, and it was in Dave's apartment. And it was remember we had a Christmas night every week that one year? And then you and me and Leslie were the only ones who showed up.
Yeah. I think it was Holiday Inn.
Oh, it's like one of my most hilarious memories. Okay.
We all shared a bowl of popcorn and sat on the same couch.
Dave, you have to cut that out. Okay.
All right, number 5.
Number 5, I have to include it. I don't love this movie, but just for the sake of my husband and my marriage, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
You don't like it?
I mean, I don't hate it, but I never watched it growing up. But it's totally my husband's cup of tea. Like we've gotten him games. I got him glasses, like drinking glasses.
Yeah. The moose.
He has the moose. He has everything. But he loves it, and we have to watch it every year. And so it does grow on me. Again, it's like a more nostalgic thing, but he would probably divorce me if I didn't include it.
Okay, that's I don't mind it. It's a good one. My number 5 is Christmas in Connecticut.
So did you just like go through whatever was made in the 1930s, 40s, 50s and just put that?
That's just what I watch every year. I like the oldies. I like the oldies because I find them to be well written. I find them to be well acted. Mm-hmm. And I just love the look of those films for cinematographically.
Yeah.
That's a word. Yeah, the black and white. Yeah.
Okay, well, you'll appreciate my number 4 then, because that is A Christmas Carol starring Alistair Sim, 1951.
So, yeah, he does such a great job in it.
Yeah, very, very good.
My thing about the 1938 one is the couple who plays the Cratchits, mm-hmm. Bob and his wife are from London, Canada, London, cool. Ontario. And they are even though they play husband and wife in the film, they actually are husband and wife, and they were an acting duel. And then Reginald Owen, who plays Ebenezer Scrooge in that film, he took over from Lionel Barrymore, who voiced Scrooge on the BBC for all those years. One year when Lionel Barrymore couldn't do it. And Lionel Barrymore is Mr. Potter in It's a Wonderful Life.
Merry Christmas, Mr. Potter. Yeah.
And a Happy New Year to you in jail. He's a personal hero of mine. Okay. What are we at? Oh, my number 4.
Yeah, you're number 4.
Holiday Inn. Yeah,
Okay.
Bing Crosby, Fred Astaire.
Yeah.
Classic. I just love that. Good music. Bing's voice is
Oh,
just butter. It's just butter. I don't need butter for popcorn that night. Just pour me some Bing Crosby right all over my popcorn.
Okay, my number 3 is While You Were Sleeping. I love this movie. It is an Alissa classic. I will watch it every year until the day I die. I think it's absolutely hilarious from start to finish. Peter Gallagher does an amazing job. Peter Boyle, like the dad from Everybody Loves
Frank,
Raymond, is super funny. Sandra Bullock is cute. Like, it's just, and the scenes in church, and just like, it's just such a good natured film. And I love it. If you haven't seen it, I'm not a huge fan of rom-coms, but this one is definitely worth it. It's really funny. And then there's really random scenes. Like, my family always cracks up because it has nothing to do with the movie, but in between scenes, 2 different scenes, there's this little kid riding a bike delivering papers, and he just wipes out on the ice, and then it just goes to the next scene. Like, it doesn't have anything to do with anything. It's so funny. Anyway.
My number 3 is Shop Around the Corner.
I've never even heard of that.
Shop Around the Corner is Jimmy Stewart, 1939, and it takes place in pre-war Hungary. I mean, because it was before the war, obviously, and it is actually the precursor. So the film You've Got Mail is based off of Shop Around the Corner.
Oh, okay.
Very well written, and Jimmy Stewart, so you know it's just going to be phenomenally acted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually didn't watch it until a few years ago for the first time.
I'll
No
put
one in
that
my
on
family had
list.
seen it before. Yeah, and now I have to watch it every year.
Okay.
Yeah. And now it's my number 3.
Okay, my number 2, Elf.
Okay. My dad's a big Elf fan.
I have to. It's so good. It's so good. I just love it. I hope they don't do a sequel. Just leave it.
Yeah.
Leave it alone.
He must have had a really fun time.
Oh, and
filming
then
that.
again, Elf is part of that Netflix documentary series. And so my favorite part of that is when he's jumping in the middle of traffic in New York City, and that was real. Like, that traffic was real and the beeping was real. And then there's a guy who actually walks by who looks like Santa, like he's in a red tracksuit with a beard, and that guy was real. Like, he was not an actor. And then Will Ferrell was like, Santa, and the guy's looking at him like, what the hell? But that was not staged. Like, that was a real thing that they just, because it was a low budget
That
movie.
is brilliant, and I'm glad that happened to someone like Will Ferrell. It just all fell in his lap.
Yeah.
My number 2, very controversial. Some people consider it a Christmas movie. Some people don't. I understand
Sound of
why
Music.
people don't. The reason it is because they started playing it at Christmas time in December, like 30, 40 years ago on ABC. And so, Sound of Music. So I'm a big proponent of watching Christmas movies, as you know.
Yeah.
And I always start, first Sunday of Advent, I always start my Christmas movie with Sound of Music. And then I always end it on December 23rd with my number 1.
Yeah, like, The Sound of Music is definitely one of the best movies ever made. I understand that people do play it at Christmas, but I don't view it as a Christmas movie. Like, I don't watch it at Christmas, but oh man, so good.
Let's do our honorable mentions.
I bet we have the same number 1.
Yeah, I'm very curious. I'm very curious of the honorable mentions, though, because I have a Christmas Story as one of my honorable mentions, as well as Christmas Vacation.
Okay, so I have one honorable mention. I have a dishonorable mention, and I have something that I want to watch.
Okay, that's way more interesting than hear a bunch of other stuff I like.
Okay, so my honorable mention, you're going to hate this, but I said I wasn't a fan of rom-coms, but I do like this one, and that's The Holiday with Cameron Diaz and what's the other chick? Drew Barrymore.
Not Drew Barrymore. It's
no.
Kate Winslet.
Kate Winslet, yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
Of course I've seen The Holiday.
I like it.
It says the moment is, well, I'm not going to say the line. But anyway, because it's Jack Black, Jude Law. Yeah. So funny story about this. So the very first Christmas that my then girlfriend, now wife, came to visit my family. My mom, like me, is big into film and is big into Christmas film and big really into like the really good old-timey 1930s, 40s, 50s Christmas films. So we had watched like a whole slew of them over a couple of weeks. And then it was toward the end. And then Oriana was like, have you guys ever seen The Holiday? I'm like, oh yeah, I saw The Holiday like years ago or whatever. It's all right. Like, do you want to watch it? And she said, yeah. And so my mom was like, well, I'll watch it with you guys. And so in the first couple of minutes, and I didn't realize this until we were watching it again, like just how annoying Cameron Diaz's character is for like the first like 5 or 10 minutes. It doesn't carry through the whole film because she grows, matures, whatever. And my mom, who loves films, got up, went upstairs, and just never came back. And so my wife was like, your mom hates me. She like probably questions like everything about me. I ruined Christmas. We just don't talk about that with my mom anymore.
Well, Oriana, I like it, and that's all that matters.
There we go. Okay, so that's an honorable mention. What's your dishonorable mention?
We just watched it, and I had high hopes, but it was Spirited with Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
And I love musicals, and I'm like, okay, Will Ferrell. I don't like Ryan Reynolds, but I thought it had potential. It was so terrible. I don't know. It has a high rating on Rotten Tomatoes, which just goes to show you how stupid everybody is.
Usually new films start really high, and then over time they come down. Like,
but
over
even
the course
I've
of a
seen
year or
people
two.
on Facebook say, "Oh, I didn't think this was going to be good, but loved it," and I'm like, this is the worst movie I've ever, like one of the worst Christmas. And I've watched Hallmark movies, and this was by far one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Those are all my honorable mentions. I'm excited for the Lindsay Lohan ones this year. Yeah. I wrote one actually. It's pretty good. And that is like terrible and trash. Mm. Yeah. Remember when we had an employee who was starred in Hallmark Christmas movies?
Yes. I think we showed that last year.
Yeah.
She was an extra. Yeah.
I watched it when I was stuck in Thunder Bay when our transmission blew up.
Okay.
What's the one you want to see?
Fat Man.
Okay. I'm not.
Because I've seen like every Christmas movie on earth, but I haven't seen. It's with Mel Gibson, and it was sort of going to be like a cult classic. Right. And I've heard mixed reviews. It's sort of like, yeah, it's dark and grungy, and I just always had an interest, but I've never watched it.
Like
not your
Santa?
typical classic, sort of, but I think more, yeah, not like dark comedy, just dark grungy, like there's guns and stuff in it. I don't exactly know the plot, but I want to see it.
Bye. Okay, my honorable mentions are pretty much all cartoons.
Okay.
Charlie Brown. Mm-hmm. The Grinch, 1966. Rudolph. Mm-hmm. Little Drummer Boy.
Oh, yeah. I always forget
one.
about that one. Yeah.
It's a heartwarming one.
Yeah.
Frosty. The first one, not the second one.
My daughter loves it. We always have it playing upstairs.
This one was really, really tough not to put in the top 10. Muppet Christmas movie where they bring together the Muppets, and then the Sesame Street characters come halfway through to the house that's like in the country. Oh. It's one of the greatest crossover events of all time. So
yeah.
Okay, I'm pretty sure we have the same number one. It has to be the same number one. So you count down 3, 2, 1, and we'll say it.
Okay.
If we're wrong, then
what if I'm like a Christmas Prince or some Hallmark movie? That'd be
or
hilarious.
like Office Christmas Party.
Yeah. All right. Okay. 3, 2,
1. It's a wonderful life. You waited for me to start it. What's your real number one?
It is. I didn't wait for you.
I have a bunch of fun facts about It's a Wonderful Life. I won't go into them because this podcast is probably long enough as is.
Yeah.
I always end it every year, December 23rd. The whole family watches it with popcorn and rum and eggnog and chocolate or hot chocolate with the marshmallows in it. Which, by the way, my wife is making homemade marshmallows this year.
Of course she is.
Whole other level.
Yeah.
But it was the first film that Jimmy Stewart starred in since coming back from the war. A lot of people don't know this, but I think he's a 3 or 4 star general from the Second World War, and he was in Korea.
He's so skinny and lanky.
he was actually too. They had to try to tell him like to eat more because he was so skinny from the war. I mean, he was so skinny to begin with, and Frank Capra, who was the one who directed it and basically wrote it and everything, he had to convince him really, really, really a lot to do it. And thank God that he did, because I think it's absolutely seminal. It was basically ignored. It had terrible reviews. It was put in the dustbin of history for like 30 years. And then in the mid 1970s, they started replaying it on TV, and that's how it was rediscovered. And it wasn't until much, much later that everyone saw how just wholesome and beautiful and all this of a film it was. But it gets me every year, just a little bit of a tear. It gets me every single year at the end. Oh yeah. I the reason I would start and end of those two, because as a father and as a husband, I try to, besides obviously my own father, I try to emulate, like, there's only like 2 characters in fiction I try to emulate, and it's a mix of Captain Von Trapp and George Bailey, because I just idolize both of them.
You have a whistle.
I have whistles. Yeah, I have whistles for my children, and I'm gonna lose all the money.
You can't lose what you don't have.
Yeah. Easier that way.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot even remotely think of any other Christmas movie that touches it. Like, it's just in a world of its own. So,
do you want to hear something embarrassing about myself?
Of course.
I started doing this a couple years ago. So every like mid-January when you're coming off your Christmas high, and for those that love Christmas, if you go to Alyssa's house, she's definitely one of those people. Yeah. Just Christmas decorations everywhere. Like, I think you open the closet and your closet's decorated.
And then I found Goodwill this year, and I don't know, like, Goodwill has stepped up its game. Like, Michael's decor and Winter's decor and all the nice stuff is all at Goodwill for like $5-7. I've never, like, I spent so much money, so everything's just on crack here. And my mom came and she helped me decorate, and she's also, like, people in her community call her house the Christmas house, so I come by it honestly. But yeah, you're not going to be here this year, but it's nuts in my house.
Yeah, unfortunately I'll be at your mom's place,
the Christmas house. The
Christmas house, that's right. Like, my wife is downstairs literally putting Christmas bows on top of like little pictures for our daughter that we have, yay high for her to see. And she's like, is this ridiculous? I have like these picture frames. No, it's not ridiculous at all. More like, I am so like, why are we spending so much money like on clothes for the baby? Like, it doesn't make. But if she went out and it was like, I had all this room on our credit card and I spent $10,000 on Christmas decorations. I'll be, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, that's
You're
reasonable.
Exactly like my husband. He's not a big spender, but when it comes to Christmas stuff, he's like, go do your thing. So
do you guys have kitchen stuff in Plus?
No.
Okay, maybe that's more of an Eastern Canada thing. I remember that when we first got married, I went in there and we are trying to find different tea towels, like kitchen towels, like Christmas kitchen towels, and I couldn't decide between them. So I was like, oh, well, we just have to get all of them. And she's like, what are you talking about? That's like $150. I'm like, yeah, well, that makes sense. Like, we need it for like, for Sunday of Advent, we'll have this one. And then for like, it's
I have my Christmas tea towels, but they're decorative. So when people use them,
I lose my mind.
I lose my mind. Started.
the damp, like, dank towel that's like in the corner on the floor, that's for you to use.
Yeah, exactly. Don't touch Santa on a scooter, I swear to God.
Anyway, It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah, the embarrassing thing that I've been doing the past couple of years is, starting kind of that mid-January, coming off the Christmas high, I like to go back and watch people watch for the first time reaction on YouTube, watching different clips from It's a Wonderful Life who had never seen it before, and they're all just like breaking down. Because I don't know how you can watch that and not. My own uncle, who's like cynical about like all film and TV, he thinks Seinfeld is not funny at all, which is part of like 3% of the population that's like that.
Has he seen The Close Talker?
I have no idea. You have to ask him. But last year was the first time he had seen It's a Wonderful Life, because he's like, everyone loves it, so therefore I hate it. I'm not going to watch it. And he's like, it's a perfect film. It's a perfect film. Yeah. And it really is. Yeah. Like, it's over. It's just under 3 hours or something like that. And to me, it's not long enough.
If you can sit through the Batman for 3 hours, you can sit through this. So
yeah.
Most films now are 3 hours, so it's like they're
You're going back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But well, I'm glad. We varied quite a bit, but we came back together.
There's a lot of similarities in there.
Yeah. I mean, I do love the classics, and I will watch them, but these are just the ones that stuck out to me. I mean, Bruce Willis. Come on. All right. Well, on that note, we have one more podcast before the new year, and that will be Scott and I counting down our top 10 moments of our podcast in 2022. So you don't want to miss that. There's going to be lots of good, funny, heartfelt, and also a little bit intense moments. And we're excited to share those with you. And we hope that you guys have an amazing 2 weeks, and we'll see you on December 23rd.
Bye for now.